How you doing, YouTube? Netmassa Beer Reviews, back with a little bit of Civil Life up in this piece, in the form of their pub series, India Pale Ale. I love Civil Life, I do. They're one of my favorite breweries. At least, at minimum, one of my more favorite breweries that I've come to know over the past year or so. Pretty much, I think every single beer I've had from these guys comes courtesy of my boy Jason. Thank you very much. And yeah, that being India Pale Ale. Old school. That's what they do. But they usually crush it. They was silver and black. Or gold and black. What do you want? A little bit of white and black. Silver and black. Whatever. All the same. Anyway. Yeah. I mean, that looks like an old school West Coast IPA. If I've ever seen one, not much of a head on it. But what is there is kind of reflecting that copper color of the actual beer itself. That rich. No idea the ABV on this, but it looks like a higher ABV kind of IPA. Looks like it's going to be sweet, kind of old school, clean, crisp, refreshing. What you expect from an old school IPA, more specifically West Coast. Just get a nose. I don't think it's that big of a beer, actually. I mean, it's punchy. It has this nice kind of citrus component combined with that soft little piney, nothing too overly aggressive West Coast kind of vibe to it. It's not a big sweetness on it also. Yeah. It smells pretty drinkable. I mean, that coloration on this beer from the head to the actual beer itself, I would have ventured to say this is up there in the 8% range. But based off of what I'm getting nose-wise, I'm thinking it's more closer to 6% or something like that. But it smells classic, old school, heavily West Coast influence. I wouldn't call it a strictly West Coast IPA, even though that's what its probably classification is. It's not like an aggressive over-the-top kind of piney or anything like that. But it smells nice. Let's dive in. Cheers. I mean, it's definitely a West Coast IPA. It is dry. There is a little pop of sweetness, but it ends up finishing dry. Super, infinitely crystal clear. Like, it's one of the cleanest drinking IPAs I've ever had in my life. That West Coast piney vibe is there. It's not overly aggressive and that's heavy-handed. You get it. You totally get it. You can't miss it. But it's not just like palate-wrecking insanity. And the coolest part about this beer is there's a cool, fluttering, nutty malt beneath it. Usually, a lot of times, these West Coast IPAs have a nice malt basis. I mean, that's a big part of what West Coast IPA kind of stands on, is built on, is a really beautiful malt backbone. But they tend to come off a little bit more just, I shouldn't say tend to, but for the most part, it tends to be a more of a classic kind of two-row kind of crystal malt kind of vibe going on here. Here, there's a nutty characteristic to it that, while I've got it before, I don't get it that often, and it just, I think, elevates this beer a little bit bigger, or a little bit higher. It's going to be really hard to peg down the ABV in this. I want to go, knee-jerk reaction, I want to say 5.5. But I think it has to be bigger. I don't think you can get that nutty, bold malt characteristic with the way these hops are coming up. I don't think you can do it sub 6. I'm going to go 6.5, which I think might be the biggest beer I've had from these guys. So I think, I don't know. This is just a really tasty, well done. Their interpretation of a drinkable West Coast IPA. It was canned almost exactly a month ago. And it's just, this beer, the best way I could kind of describe this beer is if you like these kind of beers. I mean, West Coast IPA and these kind of lower ABV, not 2x4 to the face, new school, juicy hop beers are not for everybody. But if you can get down with them, and per what I've seen from Civil Life, is that they typically do almost all their stuff in sixers at a really great price. This is one of those beers where you pop it. Let's say you're at home, barbecue, by yourself or whatever. I know, being home by yourself, drinking beer. I think everybody does that now. It's called coronavirus. Anyway, and you're barbecuing, playing video games, making dumb videos on YouTube, whatever you do. You crack one of these and you start doing stuff. And you're like, oh, this is really good. I'll have another. And then like 2 hours later, you look and they're all fucking gone. And you're like, what did I just do? Be like, that's how easy drinking this beer is, while at the same time being pretty relatively snappy, you know what I mean, with what it's delivering, and that I could see myself just crushing the living crap out of these beers. And if this is closer to 6.5%, like I think, that's kind of dangerous. Now, if I go online and I see this at sub 5%, then I'm going to get really angry that they're not like down the street from me. I mean, I'm already angry because of the kind of beers they do, but I'm just going to get even more angrier and just kind of have to, I don't know, move, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, in all seriousness, let's cut the chase. This is one of the better West Coast influenced IPAs I've had as of late. Yes, Mount Rushmore status for me. Put it there. Value and availability, no idea, but I'm pretty sure all their stuff comes in sixers at like $10 to $12 a piece all day on that. And leave you with, if you like what we like this beer, like well-made beer, beer-flavored beer, and just, classic West Coast IPA that tends to be a bit more drinkable than hyper-aggressive. You'll like this. So there you go. Reviewing the books. Thank you very much, Jason. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massif. If you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully I'm enjoying a little civil life right now. Hope to see you next time. Cheers.